Let me introduce Dr. Kalpana Chaudhary, who I met, funnily enough, on a webinar, and one where both of us were present, of course, and that's my only been interaction with her. But she's a marine biologist based in Goa and completed her PhD from the renowned ICAR Institute, which is the Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute in Kochi, and worked for Hindustan Lever at their prawn factory in Sandesh Kali, West Bengal. She was instrumental in implementing the database management system at the farm. Later, she furthered her fisheries career by being a certified technologist for the fish processing plant at Veravel in Gujarat. She also has a teaching career at the Fisheries College and has turned now to her second love, which is computers, where she's now been very, very active in training and developing techniques to simplify office practices. And that has been the main objectives. With 20 plus years of experience in training in computers, she surpasses in imparting computer literacy, meeting the requirements of the present day, which is the COVID times. It was during this period of uncertainty with COVID that she has put in concerted efforts in training and creating awareness on automation of Office using Microsoft Excel. And she has already trained more than 500 people in that. The online training was an eye-opener to the effective use of the resources available at hand. The concept of interactive dashboards and its usage in all management and reporting systems was then introduced by her. Microsoft Excel, an Office package, is widely available in offices as the ideal tool for creating the dashboards, and that's a bonus. This tool is a boon for MIS, and reporting has been made easy and productive by adaptive interactive dashboards. Esteemed institutes under the onus of Indian Council of Agricultural Research, in short ICAR, like National Bureau of Fish Genetics Research, Central Marine Fisheries Institute, Central Institute of Fisheries Technology, have all tied up for training activities with her. Other institutes like Central Institute of Fisheries Education, CENTRAC, Institute of Freshwater Aquaculture, are also in collaboration with them. Projects on the creation of dashboards as per the requirements is another aspect of interactive dashboards that she offers. So conservation of nature is the requirement of the day, and due to the fisheries background and a keen interest on mangroves and fisheries sector, Dr. Chaudhary is instrumental in adopting measures with technological advances that can make conservation easier, implementable by creating dashboards on the pollution levels. So I am personally very interested in this field and looking forward to her talk. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand over the stage to Dr. Kalpana. So please, Dr. Kalpana, please carry on and enlighten us about what you do.
Good evening, Venkat. Thank you so much for the introduction. Good evening, Karen, and everybody else on the team. Thank you so much for introducing me. And today I'll take you all through the role that dashboards can play in the management of the marine ecosystem. So that would be the topic we would be talking about. And I will share the screen with you all so that you all will be able to see this. Are you all able to see this? Role of dashboards in marine ecosystem?
Yeah, we can see it. That's it. Perfect.
So good evening, everyone, all the participants. I'm so happy that you've taken out time to listen to my brief talk on this. So basically, all of us, I think, those at least who are here, are aware about us trying to create a greener world. The greener world will happen if our ecosystem improves, and the ecosystem will improve if the measures that we take are taken very timely, and the measures are taken at regular intervals so that we don't miss out on the dates or the timings of taking these decisions. So this is where I'm going to take you all through how we are going about it now and what could happen if we use dashboards. So there are four main words that was involved in the title of my talk. The first one being ecosystem. So, what exactly do we mean by an ecosystem? Our whole world today is an ecosystem, right? So, National Geography actually explains the ecosystem very nicely. It says that ecosystem is a geographic area where plants and animals and other organisms, as well as weather and landscapes, work together to form a bubble of life. So our world itself is the biggest bubble that could be there, and of course, the each and every ecosystem, even your house is an ecosystem. So every one of us is a bubble by ourselves, surrounded by a bubble, and we live in an ecosystem which all of us now have started realizing probably is not working out the way it should have been in normal circumstances. So there are two types of ecosystem on this planet. One is the terrestrial ecosystem and the other the aquatic ecosystem. Today we are going to restrict ourselves to the aquatic ecosystem, that is mainly marine actually, but I would not say we should restrict ourselves to marine because aquatic involves a lot of other things. I'll be talking about that in uh, the further slides of this presentation. So the aquatic ecosystem consists of two types, the marine and the freshwater. And the marine consists of the ocean and the estuaries in the seacoast. And the freshwater has the ponds, the lakes, the rivers, the springs. Okay, so basically everything related to water would consist of the ecosystem. But if you look at this itself, you can make out that marine and freshwater don't exist independently, they are intertwined somewhere. Okay, so basically an ecosystem consists of two basic portions, that is the biotic factors and the abiotic factors. The abiotic factors are the factors which are non-living, which actually control everything else. So if we have a look at the abiotic factors, the first and the most important one is the temperature. What exactly is the temperature? All of us talk about it every day, probably how hot it is, how cold it is, and how hotter it is becoming day by day. Okay, so temperatures, what regulates the temperatures? It's the sun. Sun is the only source of energy for this planet, and the sun supplies a lot of energy. And out of the energy, the sun gives only a very small amount is absorbed by the earth. The rest is reflected back. Now, what was happening earlier was a lot of it was reflected back, but nowadays we are leaving out so many different types of gases due to the different types of gadgets we use or different type of machines we use. These have caused something called as a greenhouse effect. What is a greenhouse effect? The radiation goes back, hits these gases, comes back to the earth. So it is reflected back and forth, making us absorb more and more of the sun and increasing our temperatures. I wanted this to be an eye opener, actually, for you all to know how and uh, Earth is moving towards a situation where we might not actually see ourselves feeling comfortable uh, in our houses or even outside. And fortunately for me, yesterday's paper held a headline like this: "The state will see forbidding temperature by 2040." And this is talking about the state of Goa. But I'm sure all of you will realize that this doesn't relate only to Goa. The whole world would go through this. Since this was a newspaper related to the state, that headline stated so. So this is the situation we are all facing. We are facing abiotic temperatures that are going haywire, and actually these temperatures are the ones which also affect other abiotic factors that include oxygen. So as the temperature increases, the activity of the organisms also increase. which means they release more carbon dioxide, which also means they decrease the oxygen levels in the atmosphere or the waters, and hence almost temperature directly affects the oxygen levels. The other is the pH levels. So as long as carbon dioxide increases, the pH levels would definitely fall. That is, it would become more acidic, and the more acidic the water, the less viable it is for organisms to live in those waters. So this is also not something very nice that we are facing now. The nutrient levels will increase. The moment the level increases, the nutrient levels will increase. So again, leading to a lot of pollution in the waters. The mineral levels, though directly they are not related to temperatures, the flow of the waters will definitely affect the mineral levels. We have just seen that video which talks about the melting of the glaciers in the Antarctic. The glaciers, even in the Himalayas, are melting. So the Himalayan glaciers, which melt and come down as rivers in our country, is definitely going to affect all the water bodies in our country. So everything from the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Ocean, everything is going to be affected just because the Himalayas start melting. So we are into a tight situation, and the salinity definitely will get affected if the waters are going to flow down from the rivers at that fast rate. And of course, temperature also will affect the salinity. If the temperatures are high, the water will evaporate and increase the temperature levels. So basically, ecosystem has two factors. One is the abiotic, which is all the ones which are not non-living, and these affect the living organisms. So, and basically, temperature is the main thing that is affecting all the living organisms. So, we really need to pay an effect on that. This temperature, which is affecting all the living organisms, I was talking about the ecosystem and I was talking about the abiotic factors. In the marine ecosystem, we have the next word as the marine. So, what is marine? So marine would, as we say marine is related to the sea. So organisms at the sea. Do we or should we consider organisms at the sea in isolation? Is this a good idea? I don't think so. No organism in this whole planet can live in isolation. Forget about the sea. So what we generally see is we have the sea, we have an estuary or a mangrove area, and we have a river. The river flows through the estuary into the sea, and vice versa. So there's always a mixing of water in this estuary and mangrove areas. So no organism we can say organisms at the sea only as marine. Yes, we can to classify we can say marine organisms, estuarine organisms. But where ecosystem is concerned, marine would relate anything related to the water. The water body may be a salty water body like in the sea, or a brackish water like in the estuary or mangroves, or fresh water as it could be in the rivers. In whatever condition it may be, the organism is in the waters, and that's why we will not consider marine as exactly in the sea in isolation. We'll consider it overall organism present in the water. We are heading towards a situation where the whole marine life is getting changed. There's a major change that is taking place, and none of us seem to be aware of it, or the measures that are taken are not sufficient to bring about the corrective measures. The next important word was management. So, how do we manage these changes? That's what we are actually talking about today. So, management of this actually begins with the data collection. This is the most important part of it. Data is being collected from times immemorial. Historical data is available, and I will myself show you some data of marine catch and freshwater catch. The blue ones represent the marine catch, and the red ones are the freshwater catches. And if you see this, you can see both the marine and freshwater have tapered off. That is, they have actually stagnated. What we can visualize now is that we do not have enough fish in our waters, whether it is marine or it is freshwater. We are looking at times where, in due course of time, we are looking at times where the waters will no longer have the fishes. So data collection, that was times immemorial, but as of today, if you look at data collection, we have much better methods for data collection. But I would like to discuss some of the methods which are still used for data collection. One of them are the field notebooks. So people carry small notebooks or field notebooks along with them and note down things over there. Maybe the date and the amount of catch, and also the vessel used, how long they went for fishing. All these details they note down in the notebooks, come back to their place of work, and enter all this data into their computer, whatever the laptop or PC or whichever it may be. So this method is good enough, nothing wrong in that, but the errors that are possible are too many in this. And the moment you have an error, you're having going to have a lot of issues. So a better method would, like, all of us are attending webinars, and when we attend webinars, we have a form which we fill up. The form is what? A Google form, right? You fill up the form and then you get registered for that webinar. A Google form is just not for webinars, it can be used for data collection also. So Google Forms is the most ideal method, actually, in my opinion, to collect data. So how this can be used, I want to just give you a small view of this. So it allows you to collect data in a very systematic manner. So if you look and if you think, wherever you go, you have a form to fill. The form is given because people do not want to hunt through some pages of data or pages of write up. They will just look at those particular areas of interest and note down those data, right? So systematic collection of information using a form is the most easiest and best method to get the data. Okay, you can also check the values that have been entered. You can also validate the values. It's not only checking, you can make sure that the data entered by them falls into a particular manner in which you want the data. And the most important thing, we want to analyze this data. This data is directly saved in the format where it can be used for analysis. I would like to show you Google form, and then I will show you how we could actually see how the form can be effective for data collection. So just give me a minute to share my screen. So this is a form which we have created. Okay, we are collecting the name of the person. I'm sure all of us are sure that we cannot have less than 3 characters. So if I am going to type anything less than 2 characters and try to go ahead, it will tell me no, you have to type at least 3 characters, right? Okay, so let me type. Okay, the email address. So if I just type anything and try to go ahead, it will tell me no, you're not typing a valid email address. So type a valid email address. Okay, this is not the correct email address. I'm just giving it as an example here. The next thing that is there is your telephone number. You could never type letters in this number. It has to be a number, right? So it makes sure that if by chance the person has missed out or he is making some mistake with the collection of data, it is rectified over here, right? Okay. Next, the age of the person. So we are interested in people who are adults, so above the age of 18. If I type something less than that, it would give me an error and say it should be greater than 18. You cannot submit a form for a person who is less than 18. Okay. And a website address. So if you have a website of your own, you can put the website address. And if you do not put the website address correctly, it will give you an error. Okay, so since I put this TP, it would give me right. And if I submit this form, if I submit this form, it would show me that the data has been. Okay, so it would show me that the data has been submitted successfully. So this type of form submission is very important because when you have your data with you, it makes your data very easily accessible, and for analysis it becomes easy. Now I'll show you the same form, how it would look like. So this was a form which did not validate the data. Okay. So when this data is not validated, that person could enter anything they wanted, which would be garbage actually. And we know how computers work. Gigo, garbage in, garbage out. So computer doesn't realize anything except the timestamp which Google puts in. Everything else could be garbage if it is not validated, right? So you can see the age doesn't have numbers, the name hardly has anything valid, right? Similarly, if the form is validated, it could look as neat as this. In such cases, it is very easy for us to process this information and get some data out of this information, right? So Google Forms is one of the best methods for collecting data, and this data which is collected in Google comes to us in this format in Excel. So it is available in Excel for us, and we are able to process it, analyze it the way we want it, right? So this is how we could make use of Google Forms. Okay, another method for data collection would be IoT. This is one of the best methods where there is no human intervention at all. IoT, I will be discussing a little more in detail about IoT. So, IoT is basically something called as Internet of Things. This video has nothing to do with marine, but I wanted to show this just to show you how IoT is invading our lifestyle. And then I would like to talk about how it is going to invade the marine ecosystem, or it could invade and make life easy for us. Okay, so please watch this. So that was something about in IoT invading our houses, and we we could have seen the things that IoT could do, or Internet of Things. Basically, IoT is nothing but sensors placed in these things, which help us to transmit the data or do things. So IoT is of four types. Basically, there is a status IoT. Like if you see some advertisements actually tell you your house will be cooler by the time you reach the house. That is, you can remotely put a switch on your AC, and so when you reach your house is already cold. So those type of IoTs which has a yes or a no answer are the status IoTs. The next IoT would be the location IoT. This is something like your GPS systems, but because this is sensors, they are more reliable and they are more quicker also. So this type of IoT can be used on your shipping vessels. So when marine ships are going into the sea, to locate them, IoTs can be used, and it is very useful because you can also find out which location in the sea the fishing has been done, which type of fish is present in which location of the sea. So all these things put together gives you a lot of data, which, and since this is IoT driven, the data comes automatically from the sensors. We are not entering any data. The question of errors doesn't arise at all. So this is a very very important aspect where IoTs are concerned. So this IoTs would be one of the best methods to collect our data. So the third type of IoT is the automation. Automation would be automatically they feed in your they in fact your automatic vehicles on the roads, which would sense some obstacle, move around it. All those are also IoT involved. So your marine vessels also could be made in that manner. Or if you don't want a particular species to be fished, they could be coded in such a way that they avoid areas where those fishes are there. So automation could actually play a very very crucial role in IoT usages for the marine fishing, marine farming also for that matter, and last but not the least, the actionable ones. This is where we actually stand. That once the IoT is giving us our data, can we use it for predictions? Can we say that 10 years down the lane, this is where we would stand? Where with the fish catch in this particular location today is 10 tons. So 10 years down the lane, the catch would be say 12 tons or 13 tons, which is not enough compared to the number of years. So remedial measures need to be taken. All these things can be done if you are going to use Internet of Things for collection, because there's an error-free collection of data. Okay, so first we talked about collection of data. The next thing we are talking about is analyzing the data. So analyzing the data, just give me a moment, please. Okay, sorry for the thing. There's some. This thing talks about fish collection or fish catch from the year 1950 to 2025. Okay, the blue ones are the ones which is the total fish which has been caught. Okay, the black ones are the fish which are caught from the wild. The red ones are the farmed fish, and these are the exponential that is going to say that over by 2025 this would be the amount of farmed fish. So if you look at this graph, it clearly shows you that there was a lot of fish caught earlier. Okay, but gradually the fish that has been caught from the wild has not really been much. It's the farming fish which have been taking over. And if we are seeing the exponential down the years, this farming fish is still going to take over. It is going to take over, and it is going to exceed the ones that are in the sea. That means we are moving towards a world where we are going to think about culture more than capture. So this is very important for us to understand. So this type of exponential understanding of what the future could be is important for management. The next thing would be the Arctic phytoplankton levels. If you observe from 1900, we have the data up to 2010. There has been a steady fall from 1960 onwards, and there seems to be no sign of increase at all. Okay, and the on the other hand, this is the carbon dioxide levels which are steadily increasing. This, as mentioned in the video, and I was talking about also, this carbon dioxide levels are going to lead to acidic waters, We are already talking about acidic rains, and acidic waters are not at all good for the fishes or the organisms in the water. So this is going to create a problem for us. The other thing is that catches in the different regions, starting from the Arctic has been quite good, and then there has been a fall from 1960 onwards. The other regions, the North Atlantic, South Atlantic, Equatorial Atlantic, all of them have been showing a fall from the 1950s. One thing I would like to mention here is the Second World War took place somewhere during this period between 1940 to 1950. And if you see actual figures here, the figures that are denoted must have been the averages, so it is not showing you exactly the time that there was no fishing during the Second World War. There was a sudden rise in the catch of fishes after that. A similar trend is being observed with the COVID, the fishing was not going on. Now, if you go to see, there are better landings than what it was before. So, there is some way that we can find out to get an equilibrium and improve the quantity of fish in our seas and everything. Right? Okay. So, this was about the management. So, how to manage this basically? Dashboards is what I'm talking about. Dashboards are a very, very good system to manage our data. That is, to have a good view of our data. So, why am I insisting on dashboards? Let me just give you a view on this. So, dashboards are the most effective decision making systems that are available at present. At a very useful tool, it is a very useful tool, but it is made using Microsoft Excel, which is an office system. Office, every office is having a Microsoft Excel in that system, and you don't have to get any extra software or something like that to use this. No extra training is required to use this. A person who's been working in the office can very well use this. So, with these advantages, I feel dashboards is the one that will fit everybody's bill. The other reasons, of course, are these. That is, they are dynamic. What do I mean by dynamic? The data that we see in our dashboards, it will change according to whatever we want to look at. The data is dependent on our viewing. It's not dependent on what was created already, right? Interactive in the sense, okay, I want to see 2008. Okay, I want to see 2008, 2009 also, that also is okay. So anything that you are going to see interactively, that sort of data is available in your dashboard. The third very important aspect is the bird's eye view. That is, if you saw in the last few charts I've shown you, I showed you a chart which contains the phytoplankton and the carbon dioxide levels. I showed you a chart which contained the fish catches, but you could never correlate the fish catches with the phytoplankton or the carbon dioxide levels because they were never showed together. If it was showed together, you would immediately say, "Arey, right, carbon dioxide levels are going up, fish catches are coming down," right? So that sort of view you can get using a dashboard, and it is automating your work. You're not creating these charts or graphs again and again. It is automatically being done. I need to show you the dashboard. So just give me a minute for me to share the dashboard with you. So this is the fisheries dashboard that I've created. The data is fictional data. The data is not actual data. This is created to give you an idea of how a dashboard can be interactive, can give you a bird's eye view of the whole data, can do exactly the necessity of you for that day. Okay, so here at present, the data that is being presented is the catch according to the species. We have considered some five species over here. the catch according to these five species. The catch according to the location. So we have considered some four locations over here. All the four locations. What are the catches? The catching methods that have been used, they might be mechanized, they might be motorized, there might be other methods of catches. Okay, the total of each species that has been caught, which method that has been caught, used to catch these species. So these are like trend lines to show you. Now, this is for all the 3 years, 18, 19, and 20. Now, supposing this is what I mean by interactive. So, okay, if I click on 18, all my graphs will change for the year 2018. My catch is depicted only for the year 2018. Catch by location is depicted only for the year 2018. My species catches is only for 2018, and the different trend lines are also for 2018. If I select 2019 here, you will see all of them changing. So I am not going to create again and again one that it is automated. It gives me a bird's eye view because it tells me, okay, this is a species catch. This is the locations in which it was caught. These are the different methods that were used for its catch. This was the total catch and the different mechanisms that were used for the catch. Right? So it gives me a bird's eye view of the thing. It is interactive because the moment I click it gives me. Now if I say I want to compare 2018 and 2019, I just need to select both of them. I can see all my charts changing and giving me an idea of or comparison of 2018 to 2019 by the species. Locations are showing me the years, the trends are being shown for the years, right? So in this manner, I my dashboard is showing me by time series graph. So this is for 2080, and 2080 was not completed, it was only for 3 years, sorry, 3 months. So this was the data for the year wise. This would have, I would say, okay, this would be only a time series for a particular year, and no, this is not the case. I want to see only for species one for all the 3 years. I have it in front of me. I am not looking at the other species now. So I can concentrate on the species I feel that I would be actually interested in. Or if I want to compare two species, I can select two species and it would show me the comparisons of the two species and all this. I don't need to select only two, I can select three. All the three species will be displayed to me, or four species will be displayed to me. Or if I want disconnected ones, I can just select two disconnected ones also. They will also be seen, right? So I can select any permutation and combination. Now you might wonder, oh, okay, she has selected the different species, but she selected all the 3 years. I don't want to see it for all the 3 years. I want to see it only for 2018. Just select 2018 here. It will show you that only for 2018. Or if you want only 2019, select the 2 years. It will show you only for 2018. There is no restriction in the permutation and combinations you have here. Your decision making becomes much easier because every time you look at the graph, you can compare the graphs and you can say, Acha, this is what seems to be better for me. You know, the species 3 seems to be much better for me, or species 4 seems to be much better for me, right? So this is how we can do it according to the species. We could also do it according to the location. So my two species are selected, 2 years are selected. Okay, I'm say looking at only one location. This is what it looked like for one location over the 2 years, and for only these two species. So if I'm looking at location 2, this is what it would look like. Location 3, location 4. Now if I'm looking at both location 1 and 2, this is what it would look like. So every time I'm looking at this, which I'm seeing there is a coordination between location 1 and location 2. So maybe next time I would look at doing location 1 and 2 for the species 2 and species 4. So these type of decision making becomes very easy if things are so interactive and so straightforward in front of you, where your comparisons become much easier. If you're looking at figures, comparisons wouldn't be as easy as these look like, right? So this is one of the biggest advantages we have with dashboards. We can use dashboards to look at any data in this format. Now, you might wonder, okay, this dashboard is in Excel, she's showing it us in Excel. But let me tell you, dashboards need not be in Excel. You can share your dashboard even over the net, and people will be able to look at your dashboard, and they would be able to see it. Uh, just give me a minute. I will show you. So this is a dashboard we have created for the pollution in Goan rivers. Okay, so this dashboard is on the internet. As you can see, this is my internet window, and this is a file which is available on the net. I can send you a link if you any of you all are interested in. You can actually go to this page and have a look at this. You cannot put your hands onto any of the data that is there, but you can check each of them. I just need to click on this for me to select this. Just give me a minute. Okay. Right? Seems like my net is not really fast today, so it is taking some time to load. But you will see the river selected, it will change according to the river. So if I am going to select the Ravi river, it is going to change according to the Suwari river. I'm sorry to say, but my net connectivity seems to be a little slow today, so it is taking some time. Right? So whichever river I select over here, interactively my data is going to change here. Not only that, if I don't want the all the nutrient levels and I'm looking at only few nutrient levels, I could just select this and I would be able to see the data for that. If I want to see all of them again, I just click on this and I get to see all of them again. Similarly, in all the contents, mineral contents that are there, I can select the ones that I would like to see and they are all available here. And if I want to see all of them, of course, I can just select them and I can see all of them. Now, other than this, month-wise, I can check the data for these. So you can see all of them are changing their values according to the month. So you will be able to see, these type of graphs are very important for decision making. Though here it might seem, oh, it is for 1 year, the same thing can be depicted for plenty of years. It is not necessary that we should do it for 1 year. This is only a pictorial representation to say this is what can be done using a dashboard, right? So dashboards need not necessarily be related only to your Excel or something like that. You can share it all over using your net, so that people can have a look at it, make decision making much easier. So we are looking at management, and we are looking at management using dashboards. So dashboards act as a wonderful tool for management. But management, the next thing that follows management is monitoring. So we require to monitor if we have already taken a decision based on the dashboard data, we also require to monitor it. Monitoring is very important. So IoT control devices are available for monitoring the catches. We can use them. GPS enabled vessels are available. We can use them for monitoring the catches and everything that is happening in the waters. Even identification of vessels are available now. We can use them for identification. See, monitoring is not only related to vessels and catches. Monitoring is also related to levels. So IoT devices can send you data regarding the temperatures and the different mineral contents and all those things. So it will become very, very easy for you to take decisions if you're getting data instantly. And I'll be happy to tell you that IoT devices are sent to servers which are able to plot the data directly. You don't even require to plot the data. The only thing is, it won't plot it and give it to you in the form of a dashboard. It will plot and give it to you in the form of a chart. Okay, so the next thing, so we said, okay, we were monitoring. The next thing is to protect the endangered species. So each and every one of us are aware of at least one endangered species on this earth, right? And India itself has quite a few of them endangered. So, as we have seen in the video already, the temperatures are giving rise to conditions which are making the species not able to bear the conditions and make forcing them to adapt or to migrate or to then die. And many of them, unfortunately, are dying. So, life in the equatorial regions will become arid like a desert. The conditions we are facing now is that. So, our management, marine management, should lie in making these areas feasible and feasibly occupied by all the biota, the biosphere that was existing originally in these regions. And equatorial regions were very, very dense with lot of forestry, and they are slowly going. So management comes out of uh, timely decision making, and timely decision making can be done if you have some pictorial representations instead of figures in front of you. So life in the equatorial regions depends upon that. The life in the tropics also depend upon that, because equatorial regions, those who are not able to withstand the temperatures, are moving towards the tropics. The tropics are better than the equatorial regions. So those who are able to migrate and adapt to the tropics are migrating to the tropics. So the tropics are becoming occupied by species which would have been originally equatorial. So we could actually say the earth is moving towards a condition where the equator is going to be called a different region, and tropics are going to be called the equatorial region. The subtropics are going to be called the tropics, and the polar is going to be called as the subtropics. It's sad to say, but this is how we seem to be moving at, the tropics becoming the subtropics, because life is migrating from the tropics to the subtropics, and from the subtropics to the polars. So all this endangerment, the future of ecosystem management depends upon effective decision making and timely monitoring of this. And dashboards is a very simple solution for the existing problem and the analysis of this. So, with this, I take your leave. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I'm sure all of you all would agree that we require to actually start managing ourselves and managing the system and making this earth a livable and lovable place. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Kalpana. That was
Thanks,
very
Rohit.
informative. I think in the conservation field, at least, I can see a lot of use for, as you said, for endangered species, not only endangered species, but also species which might become endangered in the future. That is equally important because we are actually, as you said, wiping out species even before we realize that they're heading towards that kind of situation.
Actually, yes.
So I know because I am doing this coral project, and even for me to collate the data and to keep it on a regular basis, I am actually working on that right now. In fact, Siddharth, who is here also on the webinar, has also come up with some solutions for that, how to present the data and how to do comparative analysis, etc. So that's very
Let me know
interesting.
if you require my help.
Yeah, definitely. when you finish learning diving, I will take you down there and show you this and tell me how to do this.
That would be a good show.
Exactly, exactly. So, yeah, that will be interesting. Okay, so let's check if anybody's got any questions. Guys, let's see if you have any. There's nothing posted in the Q&A
No,
video.
nothing is posted in the crop for questions.
Yes, I think they're still absorbing it, so give them a few minutes.
Yeah, because I've given them quite a few shocks actually.
Yes, to think about and to
Yes.
process takes time.
Yes.
But tell me, what specific projects are you working on at the moment, other than the training part of it that you're doing?
Yeah, actually, we are trying to tie up with Pollution Control Code of Goa to create the dashboard. The one I showed you,
Hmm.
it's data from their dashboard, from their website. I
Okay.
created this dashboard using that data,
Okay.
and we are working towards that, and we are working towards biodiversity board.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. And we are actually, because now we have reached a stage where we have planted all our corals.
Right.
We have done 4 beds of corals, and we have measured them and we have documented that. But now the process of monitoring starts, trying to see what is the growth rate, etc. So we would need something where we can, for example, in terms of percentages, see the growth every month or every 6 months or something like that.
Hmm.
So I can foresee this kind of tool being useful.
Yes.
That.
The other advantage, Venkat, of using this is the data can be updated.
Right.
So every time you're not going to create a new set of file and start with a base again.
Correct.
The
Correct.
same thing will get updated with the new data.
So right now, to let you know, I am actually doing it in Excel,
Oh, okay.
but simple Excel sheet.
Okay.
For example, to give you an idea, we have a tile, right? We are transplanting the coral onto tiles
Right.
at the back of the tiles.
Right.
So those each tile is 1 by 1 foot, and we are planting 4 pieces of coral, which we call, let's say, on a corner that is top left hand corner is A, B, C, and D. Okay, so
Right.
there are 4 pieces of coral, and we physically measure the pieces with either a ruler, which is what we have been doing anyway, and writing down those values. So only at the moment, only one batch we have done a follow-up survey on for monitoring. All the others are freshly planted, like in November. So that is what we are going to be using as a comparative table, if you want to call it that, on Excel. So I'm sure that can be easily migrated to a dashboard.
Oh,
and-
yes. It would make a fantastic dashboard actually.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So then I must sit down with you and discuss this further.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Let me know. Only next week I'm not there. So
No hurry, no hurry. Yeah, no problem. We will discuss.
yeah, I'm traveling next week, so I'm not there next week.
Okay, all right. All right, folks.
Yeah, folks. Nobody seems to have any questions.
You clarified that too much, I think.
Okay. Either they understood whatever I said or they didn't understand anything of what I said.
There are 2 possibilities, right? So that's
Absolutely.
permutations and combinations there. Okay, we have somebody who has said something in the chat window. Let's see. Deepak Chaudhary is being very appreciative.
Yeah.
Do you know this gentleman?
Seems to. The name seems very familiar.
I think he's looking for a good meal when he comes back.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, so we are running tight on time right now, so I guess we will close the session. Bhagyashree has thanked you for the session. I'm sure all
Thanks,
of them.
Bhagyashree. Thanks a lot.
I'm sure
She's my
everybody
friend,
is-
by the way.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody is thankful for all the knowledge that you shared and the data that you shared. So we will look forward to putting that into actual use.
Yes.
And Alex from Germany saying, thank you very much for this information. I'm looking forward to seeing dashboards help us with more predictive information. All the best from
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So much appreciate your time. And I know you've been really, really busy and we have been hounding you for the information and whatever. But I mean, it all came together in the end and we're grateful for that. Okay. So you have a wonderful trip wherever you're going. Where are you going? Are you going to your husband now?
No, I'm going to Chennai. Actually, I have a wedding to attend.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
COVID wedding to attend.
Okay. So have a good, safe journey.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
we'll catch up with you when you come back. And I shall look forward to introducing to all my fishy friends underwater.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Venkat. Thank you for the opportunity you gave me. It was
Not at all,
wonderful
not at
being
all.
here. Yeah.
Take care.
And I hope the attendees have got enlightened with whatever I talked about.
Yes.
Yes. Have a safe stay at home, stay safe. And I hope 2021 brings a lot of good things to all of us.
I think everybody's hoping and wishing for that.
Yeah.
Everybody's fed up of 2020.
2020. Right. They actually were saying, oh, just a month away. Right.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Thank you,
Good
everyone.
night.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night all.
Bye.
Thank you.